Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the South Cambridgeshire series, 103 parishes in a district that completely surrounds the city of Cambridge in Cambridgeshire. Let's get to it! Welcome back to South Cambridgeshire, everybody. Now, of all the ones in this run of 8 that I've got going down here towards the end of this year, this is the one I feared the most. And the reason for it is simply because the route was so very difficult to plan. It is a circular route, but I've had to work hard to get to this point, trust me. We're beginning this one outside a school, and even though that's Gretton School, this is the parish of Girton. This video is sponsored by Bassett Law Pro Clean, specialist floor and upholstery cleaners based in Retford, Nottinghamshire. Do you have a commercial space, own a restaurant, hotel or pub, maybe an office block? Bassett Law Pro Clean cover the entire country for commercial work. And they have a special offer. Quote the Village Idiot when you inquire and get a massive 7.5% off. Need it cleaned by the experts? Contact Bassett Law Pro Clean now. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Round 6 in South Cambridgeshire brings us to Girton, the second time we've seen a village with that name on the channel. This is located about 2 miles to the northwest of Cambridge and is well known to students of Cambridge University. Much like its Newark and Sherwood counterpart, Girton's name means village on the gravel because it grew up along a gravel ridge. The old name for Girton was Gretton, hence the name of Gretton School, which you've just seen in the intro. Girton has a long history, and for more than 2,000 years it was considered to be a poor settlement. Settled as far back as Roman times, Girton sits on the Via Devana, the Roman road linking Colchester to Chester. It was an important Anglo Saxon settlement later, and a cemetery with at least 225 burials was found here in 1880. A selection of Anglo Saxon items are stored in the collection of the village's best known landmark, Gton College, originally founded by 2 women in Hitchin, Hertfordshire. Before the 20th century, most of the village was devoted to arable farming, but now it's a thriving suburban metropolis, and very busy too. The parish used to be a little larger, but it ceded some land to Madingley in 1985 when it aligned itself with the M11 motorway, at the time a brand new road. Splitting the parish in two is the A14, although Girton actually has no direct access to that road. Long walk time, let's go. We begin our walk around Girton at Gretton School, located on the northernmost fringes of the village on the road to Oakington. Gretton is a special school for children on the autism spectrum between the ages of 5 and 19. It offers both day and residential places. Moving south, next we come to Churchfield Court, a former farmyard that's been turned into housing by Cognatum Estates. No time to catch your breath here, the landmarks come thick and fast. Over the road is Girton Baptist Church, built in 1860. The road starts to climb a shallow hill now as we head for the Old Crown pub, one of 3 in Girton and the oldest of the lot. This opened in 1840. The village's first pub was the White Horse, which dated back to 1760, but it closed in the late 20th century. Buses, yes, you can get those here. Right outside the pub you can stagger to this stop, where you can catch the number 6 to Cambridge. Not far up the road is the second of the 3 pubs, the George, which was opened by a local blacksmith in 1850. It's here I chose to utilise a parish notice board. There are several around Girton, but my card is on this one. Tick it off. Of course, this is South Cambridgeshire, so there's plenty of these around. Thatched cottages. There's more to come yet. As the road bends to the left, the magnificent old rectory appears. Dating from 1670, this is now a secondary site for Gretton School. And of course, with that being a rectory, you know what's not far away. The church. It's literally just up here on the left hand side. So let's go to church and see what this one can tell us. Just before the church is the Cotton Hall. This was the original village school between 1847 and 1956. It's now a communal building. In front of it I found some e-scooters. Similar to the ones we met in York, these can be rented and ridden into the city centre. Now for the church. This has been dedicated to St Andrew since at least 1240, but its history goes back much further than that. There was likely an 11th century church on this site, but the present building was largely rebuilt in the 15th and 16th centuries. It was owned by Ramsey Abbey from the 12th century onwards until Henry VIII had his way at the dissolution of the monasteries. It is usually open, but as you can see at the time of my visit, it was closed for some repairs. Ah well, better luck next time, eh? Among those buried in the churchyard here is Ellen Wordsworth Darwin, the second wife of Charles Darwin's son, Sir Francis. At the main entrance by the road is Girton's 12-foot-high war memorial, a stone obelisk designed by Mr. F. Backers of Hitchin. How about this for a landmark? Known as the Golden Goose sculpture railings, these deserve their own special section in a moment. They can be found in the car park of the Girton Parish Council Hall, Pavilion and Playing Field, home of Girton Cricket Club. So there is a rather large playground here as well, which I can't really capture all of because there are children on it. It's good to see them out though in half term rather than being sat at home playing on their Xboxes and things like that. It makes filming schools easier too when they're not at school. There's one up here, Girton Primary School. You can just see the entrance to it just there. But I think I can hear some children in the school playground for some reason, so I won't go any closer than here. We'll turn around at this point and we'll keep heading south towards Cambridge and see what else we can find. The sculpture railings are Girton's pride and joy. They capture so much history in just one landmark. Created by the artist Matthew Lane Sanderson, the design of the sculpture railings incorporates geese and quills. These were historically associated with Girton when flocks of domestic geese provided quills for Cambridge University. The sculpture also includes a tree of life using the Fibonacci sequence to define the proportion of panels and post settings. An engagement board giving the background to the design is located next to the railings. Sanderson, who was awarded the project back in 2015, is well known for this kind of large-scale work. Despite its size, his art is visually delicate. Born in Cambridge, he now lives in Hertfordshire, where he has a larger, more permanent studio space for his structures. The railings project was wholly funded by Girton Town Charity and included a new footpath and a replacement bus shelter in keeping with the Grade 2 listing of St Andrew's Church. It's fabulous. The school's full name is Girton Glebe. Built in 1951, this replaced the Cotton Hall as Girton School, and it's still going today. Over the road is Girton Social Club. Owned by Girton Village Institute and voluntarily run, this charming building dates back to 1910. Next door is Girton Day Nursery. Formerly Scallywags, this is not to be confused with Kindred Nursery and Preschool on Oakington Road. The heart of the village is greatly residential. I describe it as a maze of suburban-like streets between here and the A14. Effectively just housing, I chose to walk down here to show some of the village's typical housing stock, although it varies greatly. Girton has a lot of post-war housing, accounting for much of its urban sprawl towards Cambridge from the old village core. There are still areas of green space and a few large trees to go with them. It's not all about the residences down here. While we're talking about residents though, I should use this opportunity to mention two people who once called Girton home. One was the ornithologist and bird photographer Emma Turner, and the other was Vic Watson, West Ham United's record goalscorer. As we reach the end of this section, we find the ridiculously huge Girton allotments. They're so big, you can't see the other end. Trust me, all you allotment fans out there, you will be in hog's heaven if you come here, because this is easily one of the biggest patches of allotments I've ever come across. It spans a huge amount of area to the south of this road, Hicks Lane. So I suppose it stands to reason, because this is a very residential village, isn't it? And a lot of people do like to have an allotment. Here we go, here's another entrance to the allotments here. You can just see how big this is. Massive. Goes for ages and ages, all the way back there. Crazy. Right, let's continue. We're going to take a right turn here, and this will take us to another residential area, and then we're going to make our way back up to the north again. As we make for the A14, the next thing we pass is an old phone box. Once again, this one's been turned into a book exchange. Girton's Co-op then appears on the left. This was in the local news a few years ago owing to a fire deliberately started by thieves. The road name has changed now to Girton Road as we step onto a bridge. We're standing above a familiar road, the A14. This splits Girton into two pieces. Despite being so close to civilization, the A14 has no direct link to the village. This stretch runs around the outer edge of Cambridge, bypassing the city, before continuing on towards Newmarket and into Suffolk. An about turn brings us onto Weavers Field, one of the newest streets in Girton, which runs alongside the A14. As I said at the top, this was a hard route to plan. Originally, this was where I was going to start, but it would have meant skipping Gretton School. At the end of the estate, we come to a wooded area separated from the A14 by a fence. It features this secluded little playground. By following the path past the park, we're now heading back north, and this was the only part of the walk that felt truly rural. So if truth be known, this path is not the most exciting in the world. There's nothing really to see, not on this side anyway, because as you can see, it's just a big hedge with a few berries in it. I'm not going to pick any of them for obvious reasons. I suppose the other side you do have this to look at. You can see the road over there in the distance, the A14, and some crop fields in between me and that. You know, the funny thing is about Cambridge is that there's plenty of traffic that comes down this way for obvious reasons. The A14 is a major route, and it doesn't just link places to Cambridge, it also links places to the M11 and also to the coast as well. But not much traffic seems to come into Cambridge itself, not in my experience anyway. I might be wrong about that, because obviously I'm not a local, and you guys will know more than me whether or not Cambridge gets busy traffic wise, but there always seems to be plenty around the city, and that road there is a brilliant example of just how much traffic uses the roads around Cambridge. Right, we will carry on along this path for a short way further. What this eventually does is it brings us back into the village, and our end point is not too far away actually. It's the rectory where we turn towards the church. So yeah, let's carry on. We've emerged onto a road with the brilliant name of Duck End. Before all the new estates were built, this was Girton's southernmost point. The original village was an elongated rectangle consisting of Duck End, Church Lane, the High Street and Cambridge Road. This is the southern part of the High Street, residential almost all the way, with a picturesque green marking its centre point. From the 1950s, the village grew considerably, both along the old streets and lanes and in new closes built off them. By the 1980s, save for where open spaces had been preserved as allotments, virtually all the ancient village crofts were built over. The result is that this once poor rural settlement has become enormous. It seems weird to think that in 1801 Girton only had 30 dwellings. Indeed, there were only 90 by 1850. Even as late as 1910, just 37 houses stood along the High Street. Eventually, the High Street rejoins Cambridge Road at the Old Rectory as we re-enter familiar territory. Here's another view of the rectory, which incidentally was replaced by a new one before becoming part of Gretton School. Okay, and this area should be familiar to you from earlier in this episode. All I've got to do from this point onwards is walk back to the other part of Gretton School where I started, straight up that road you can see behind me. We're not finished with this episode just yet though. Mention the word Cambridge to anybody and one of the first things they'll think of is of course the University of Cambridge. Well, here in Girton there's a college which is part of the university, and we're going to take a drive around that to finish. This southern section of Girton is almost all residential, or at least it is on the eastern side of Girton Road. That said, within this housing estate you will find a row of shops which include a hair and beauty salon, a bike shop and a furniture showroom. To the north of this street, Thornton Road, there's also another residential area which includes the William Colling Community Centre, a small play area and the local bowling green. Primarily though, we've come down here to see Girton College. There are two main ways to enter the college. To begin with, I tried the one off Girton Road but quickly learned that this was a bad move. As you can see, you can't actually see the building thanks to the extensive woodland that surrounds it. Luckily though, that's not the case if you use the other entrance off the A1307 Huntingdon Road. Get ready because this is quite the magnificent building. Girton College was formed in 1869 under the name of the College for Women at Benslow House. It was originally based in Hitchin in Hertfordshire before moving to its current site in 1873. Until 1976 it only accepted women. It was the first women's college in Cambridge, and its founders were indeed both women themselves, Emily Davis and Barbara Bodichon. It was also the first of the women's colleges to become co-educational. The main building is typically Victorian and was built of red brick between 1872 and 1877. It was designed by the architect Alfred Waterhouse. Ever since the establishment of Girton College, its formal head has been a woman. Known as the college mistress, her main task is to exercise general superintendence over the college affairs. The mistress is elected by the council and has to reside here for at least 2/3 of each term. The college's motto, like many, is Latin, and it translates to English as "better is wisdom than weapons of war." There's far more I could tell you about Girton College, but we have to move on. Suffice to say, it's one of the most incredible landmarks we've seen so far. We're now heading for the next one via a brand new road interchange where the A1307, A428 and A14 all meet. This was created following the completion of the M11 in 1985. Have a breather, Cambridge. I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.